all set? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as published.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So for the start of new business, this has been on our list for a while, the deputy chairperson discussion. We had started talking about it a little bit a couple of meetings ago, and Dave had said that he was willing to be deputy chair again this year. I don't know if anyone else has any interest, if we want to just move forward with having Dave as deputy again for 2025.
Do you want a motion or?
Do we need
I
to
don't know if we do.
formalize it? I think we have to formalize it.
We don't have to, but we can.
Okay. I was just reading again today, and it said something about us. I thought it said something about us voting, but maybe not.
Okay.
I could be mistaken, but we can most definitely, you know what, better safe than sorry. We can take a vote.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to make the motion that Dave Seitz become our deputy chair for the next year.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what this. Welcome again.
Thank you, everyone.
So Jill, don't ask me why I was sitting there reading this today, but it says under the Historic Preservation Commission, the 279-2E, the vice chairperson shall be elected by and from among the members of the commission. So maybe elected doesn't mean you have to vote, but I just figured.
It's better safe than sorry. And you know what, my thought is, it's the same as an election, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be in the minutes that a motion was made, you voted, and Mr. Stites continues as deputy chair.
He accepted. Yeah, we didn't ask you if you accepted.
I definitely do. Thank you. I would like to do it.
Okay, great. So tonight we have a real treat. We are going to hear from Doris about the Greystone Church
Okay. Yeah.
and on 20 East Church Street. And it looks like you're all set and ready to go, Doris.
Okay. The cornerstone was laid in 1892. It has historical significance in the village because of the age of the property and the fact that the Baptist church was prior to the Greystone, was started around 1840, and many of our Penfield and Parrington pioneers were amongst the original people, and many of those families have stayed in the area and have belonged to that church for many, many years and contributed to our community. The architectural style, I believe, is called Richardson's Romanesque, and it also has Gothic features. The windows have peaks that are more seen in Gothic revival properties. And the last, of course, just seems like a minor thing, but it is an established feature of our village. Number one, it's the only stone village. It's made of Warsaw blue sandstone, but also it's on the main street. That street is named for the churches on that street, and it has good company. The church next door to it is both locally designated and on the National Register. We have the Baptist church on the corner of Main and Church, and there's I believe 5 currently still on Church Street. So that's my rationale for using that established feature. If you look at the chart, my inventory form, I have indicated that the designer is Reverend L.W. Raymond. I'd like to dig more into that. He is, in all written material that I've seen, given credit for leading the design of it, but I can't, there has to be an architect helping him. My assumption. I may never find it because that information, unless the church has some documentation, that would be wonderful to find out. It is an amazing church, and the shape of it is so very difficult to describe, as you've seen by my notes. The church, this picture that you're seeing is from a postcard of the church, and the building to the right is their parsonage. It was actually built just before the main, the church building. Let me just flip a little bit. Go ahead. Another postcard view. It is, in my estimation, has remained, the exterior has remained intact. From all the, and I haven't taken recent pictures. The pictures I actually have are a few years old there. I'm gonna go through another one. So here we go. That one of the foundation, I did not fill that in, but I'm not sure how we distinguish the walls of stone from the foundation itself, and maybe when we get a closer view of it, it will actually have a foundation that's of a different material than the actual church. It is all stone. The windows on the lower level of the front facade have a bank of 3 large Gothic style, we're not looking at that picture, stained glass windows. The upper level has a bank of 3 smaller Gothic style windows. And there, in the peak, there is a round window. Thank you, that is the better picture to explain that. The east and west side of the main building have 5 Gothic style stained windows. The small front gable entrance has 2 small Gothic style stained windows. Now that's the tower and the main and the entrance. Both entrances, I can't say it, face the same direction, and one is in the tower. Here we're seeing the picture that is on the east side of the building, and on the right, I describe this as a a gable addition, basically. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Some of the documentation I found, and I gave you a copy of a description in a newspaper, it talked about that being a lean-to, which I don't know how to say that. I don't consider that a lean-to, but maybe you guys can help me with that wording right there. As you see, every single window has got a point. Every single window is more of a Gothic style than a Richardson Romanesque. But it has a lot of the features of the Richardsons, obviously. The stone itself, the irregular, asymmetrical format of the front. Now here we go. This is this tower. The tower has Gothic style windows on the lower level and a Gothic size vent on the upper level. The round tower, there's a round tower, I don't know if you can find a picture there, on the east side that is attached to the square tower. And it has Gothic windows at various levels. We're jumping ahead, it's okay. Now, if you saw in my emails, I was questioning how to describe the overall form of the building itself. And Chuck suggested we call the sides, the sides that are at an angle on a chamfered corner. The upper level, and here we are seeing on that angled wall is a window on the upper level that is a Gothic shape, and it forms a dormer. And I would just talk briefly about the doorways. There's two facing front, one in the tower, and one from the front. I called it a front-facing gabled structure. I don't know if that's acceptable. Does that help explain that building, the part on the right where the other door is? They are recessed in the stone, and they have rectangular stained glass windows on each door and a Gothic-style stained glass window above the doors. There are two-story bays. There are two-story bays projecting from the hip roof. Now, I meant to correct that. That's what we talked about. That was that Chuck suggested we call them chamfered. The corners are chamfered. So that's I need to correct. And the overall shape of it, one of the articles talked about it having a cross shape. And I think maybe I need to meet with Chuck and kind of go over this because it's a very complicated roof line. It is a hip roof. The back section, of course, is new from the 50s. But the main section is a hip roof, and again, with those angled corners. And then there's a gable projecting from that, and then there's a gable, and they have those chamfered corners. That has I'm talking about the front section. And then that front section has a gable. So it's quite complicated. Maybe I should just put a drawing in there and let it go at that. So any help you can give me and help to make that clear and simple, if possible, that'd be help. Okay, so again, I talked about the architectural style. The other significant architectural is, of course, that the walls are made of the Warsaw blue sandstone. The article that I found called it cut rock face, and that it was laid in irregular courses. I'm going to have to get a closer look at that to understand that. And there are two stone spheres, and one is on the square tower, and one is on the small gable entrance on the west side. And they seem to be original. They are not symmetrical in any way, which would make you think that maybe something was missing. But all those old postcard pictures just have one on the tower and one on that side, the entrance on the west side. I have to get my directions. So, let's see. I think the only change that I can see from the exterior is that there was in 1958 they built that cement block addition. It's 53 inches by 48 inches on the rear south side of the building. There's a picture there. You saw it. Okay. I'm finding that pinning down the actual history and finding the actual first members is a little difficult because one article will say 9 people, one other article will say 19. But I just reread the History of Monroe County document about the church, and it sounded like it was the Free, I believe it was the Free Baptist Church in Parenton, and they merged with a Penfield Free Will Baptist Church. So some of the names from the Harrington Church and some of the names from the Penfield Church seem to be the same. The Connetts, for instance, Daniel and Cornelius, they had a farm on the very close to Penfield on the northwest side of our area here. And they both, pretty much every one of the people that I've tried to research that I have found that most of them are farmers. I'll go through that a little later. The interior, I have found a description of the interior that was written in 1893. And it was pretty clear as to what, they even give the size of the tower, which is 60 feet high. Again, they called the vestibule on the, where the entrance is on the west side, they called it a lean-to. And they talk about the dining room and kitchen and where that is. I gave you that in an extra document there. That's where I got it from. So it even talks about the seating capacity. I've not been in the building, so I'm not quite sure. I think visually I would understand the description a little better if I was in the building. But it may not be the same any longer. But I thought it was good to have it because, you know, in our inventory we have that as an item to fill in. But if they were ever going to apply for National Register, the interior format of the building is very important for the National Register, not necessarily for our concern. But as long as I found the article, I did my best to type it up the way they had written it. So again, I'm recommending we approach this church building and propose designation because of the historical significance and the style, which is very unusual. Well, it's common in that era, and actually the church next to it has some Richardson Romanesque details, but it's quite different because all of the entrances on the Congregational church have the round, the oval, not oval, but semicircle openings and windows. And so this church is very different because of the Gothic style of the windows. And I guess kind of explained, I thought that because it is on the main, it is a main feature of the village because of Church Street, and you cannot miss this on the way through our village, either residents or people traveling. And again, that's all I have, really. Anything anyone can add or correct to my inventory? Or shall we meet out offline?
Doris, I'm going to send you an email on a few things I've seen.
On what?
I'm going to send you an email on a few things on
Okay,
the
great.
inventory form that I can offer.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
A pretty outstanding building, isn't it? You'll start looking at it. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not changed outside. So,
It would be, that's what I was thinking. I wonder, after reading about the interior, wouldn't it be something if they had left everything in place? I mean, the woods that they used and everything. So
no.
it would be great to see the inside.
Yes, as you said, the inside was all chestnut. I guess the tower and the entrance to the west have oak inside. But it was this description was very specific. When I first wrote up the inventory, I wasn't sure the front doors were oak. I thought they were, but I really haven't been by to check. I'm not going anywhere with this cold. So I wasn't sure. So finding that was really nice because it's definitely oak doors. So didn't have to go up and check it out. So then the next step, as far as if the group is
Doris,
happy
before
with
you
this
jump
proposal.
ahead, can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I'm kind of curious, and I don't know if you know the answer. So I'm looking at this 1915 postcard, and if I'm following correctly, the entrance on the right-hand side was an addition.
I don't know that it was an addition.
Okay.
No, in the description I found in 18, the description I found from the newspaper, where was that? The newspaper I found it was there in 1896.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't follow correctly.
And
then.
I think it was designated the year before, or not designated. The cornerstone was 1892, but I believe they officially opened the church in 95.
Okay, so
So
out
this
of
was only a year after. I don't believe it's an addition.
Okay, so out of curiosity, was it commonplace to have two entrances like this on each side? Or does that also make this unique in terms of its architecture?
And they're substantial, both of them. It's not
Correct.
like one is the major entrance and the other is the back door or the side door to private rooms. It talks like the doorways are sort of equal and lead. Where does that in the interior? They lead into. Somewhere in here it sort of describes how they both led into the same area, I believe. But I personally can't imagine it, from the description, what the floor plan really is. So, okay, I don't know. Anything else?
I think it's fabulous, and thank you for doing all this work. It's really interesting, and even going back into the history and when it started and where the
Yeah.
congregation came from, and it's beautiful.
I'm always, I'm skeptical sometimes of some of the articles that have been written because just the way they word it, because one article says there were 19 people, but the Monroe County, history of Monroe County says there were 9. But that's prior to them merging with the Penfield group. So, someone decided it was 19 with the two groups, I believe. And it was just harder to explain it the other way around. You know what I mean? But I literally had to go back because, again, some of the people that were involved in the early years of the church, I kind of left that out. I'll talk to you about it when we're talking about the history and the facts that they were many of them were early pioneers. One person mentioned was William Bly. He was a carpenter and a builder, and he built 20 Woodlawn. The William Trescott, had a fruit grinding and packing system called the Trescott Company. Apparently, he revolutionized the wholesale grocery business. Marie and Martin Wood are a farmer who had his farm on West Street, and his house, 42 West, is designated. The Ellsworths. Charles Knapp was the son of the second generation. He was the son of Lauren Knapp, who was a pioneer who came here in around 1825. And again, the Connets, they had the brother Cornelius came first, then Daniel a few years later, and their son Austin built the house at 30 West Street. You can see the generations of these people from these names that I popped up. There's a Frank Bound in the list, and I'm not sure the relationship, but the Bounds, George Bound, who was obviously a later Bound, is the one who started the carriage. He was a blacksmith. He started the carriage business that was at where Village Landing is. And Milton Budlong, he's written up in the history of Monroe County, and the farmer was out where the landfill is today. So those names are very recognizable pioneers and people who have stayed in the community, whose families have stayed in the community here. And I'm sure I can find out more, but it's just very tiring to keep digging on. I looked at Ancestry.com and I couldn't figure out how Frank was related to George Bound. But they talk, some of these articles talk about their uncles being there, and so it's very hard to figure out exactly what the relationship is. But the Bound name is very, very well known.
So next up here, then, I just want to make sure that everyone's had a chance. Are all of us on board with moving forward with this, so we have it more formally? Is everyone on board with Doris moving forward?
I definitely am and appreciate the work. I just have one question. I'm just thinking about the item 23, the context of the neighborhood. I'm just trying to think exactly where it is, but it's across from the firehouse, right?
Down
Is
the
it
street,
really?
just a little bit. It's right next to the Congregational Church to the right.
Yeah, is it really residential
Well,
in that area?
yeah, somewhat.
There are? Okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think. 'Cause
It's a mix.
Yeah, it is.
There's a
But it's-
point where you get where there's a number of single-family, then two-family, and then as you get closer to Turk Hill Road, there's apartment structures.
yeah,
So
It's a mix.
it's a
Definitely.
mix.
Okay.
But I would, if we're, looking at just data itself, I would say it's more residential than anything. Which makes sense because your church is more likely to be found in a residential district than a commercial district.
The parsonage is no longer owned by the church, but I believe it's it's apartments.
Is it?
So as far as, but, again, the building that's right next to Wade's gas station is a house. Architecturally, it's a house, but it's a business.
Right. I guess that's what I'm thinking, because I can think of that, but then I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what's from there to the churches. And then there's a cemetery and a whole bunch of other things. I mean, I don't have a problem with this at all. I just was asking out of curiosity.
That's fine, we all are learning
Yep.
as we go here, so that's the fun part.
Doris,
But you gotta drive by.
did you mention the parsonage anywhere in this document?
No, I didn't really. I showed the picture, that's all.
Yeah.
I don't think I have it on here anywhere, but I could put it, I'm sure I can find a appropriate place for it.
Yeah, something about, with context, it'd be interesting to note that
Okay.
building was the parsonage at one time.
Probably, I'll just put it into the history section there, because it is how, the other thing that I wondered if, and I don't know enough about this to really do it, how can I say, thoroughly, is I did look up Free Will Baptist Church to find out, there's all kinds of things I can add about them starting a Sunday school and supporting the food link. Obviously this church is a community church, and they were involved in a lot of things. But I also, when I looked up, I didn't save it, but I can look it up again. It talked about, it was just a general Free Will Baptist Church and what they stand for. And I believe they were against slavery and alcohol. There's some of the things that they, what their principles were about. I don't know if it's important to us in this context, but I can't be sure because it was just a general website that this group, unless the parishioners have more information about that. It'd be nice if it was true and they would verify things like that. I'd be glad to write that in as part of the social, cultural history of the building. But I don't want to just make it up, so. It was a general website about the Free Will Baptist Church that mentioned that. And other, obviously, religious type goals and principles.
So Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I'm in favor of designating it. I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't already been designated.
Yeah.
So,
We did approach them in 2018, but at that point, we were being just sort of blanketly, approaching a number of people, and we didn't follow up on it. So, and the churches, I don't know, the church has changed again to the Greystone Church, and I don't know if they are, what their denomination is. I don't know anything about them, and the websites are very basic, on the people. But maybe once we talk with them, they'll have some interesting history and things that they would want to include in this description.
So Doris, would you want to then, I know we have that letter, but it's been a while since we've used it, maybe take another look at the letter that goes out to the owner or the organization,
Yeah.
and just kind of take a look and see. And then I don't know if we would have it, is it always signed by the chair? I would think maybe,
Well, that's up to the group because it's up to the group. I mean, at the time I said in 2018 I was chair, so it didn't make any difference. But other times we've had it sent out by the chair because you're the head of the committee, and saying that so and so will get in talk with them and this is what we want to do and why and that sort of thing. So it's just a different approach.
okay. So would we want to talk right now? Is there someone, we always go in twos. Is there anyone here that would be interested at this point with working with Doris and going to this meeting? You know, you would be part of that letter and.
So I just want to jump in for
Oh,
a second.
sure.
So I would also like to be part of the letter as the person that'll be most intimately involved with application of the code should they decide to make any changes. And I would also like to participate in the meeting.
Okay. And so maybe we could get together at another meeting and we could edit the letter, revise it, and get it the way that we want to for where we are today. And we can include you and obviously Doris spearheading this. And then again, I don't know if there is someone here who would like or have the ability to maybe during the day or go and visit with Doris.
We can do it in the evening too. So, you know, we're not limited to 8 to 4 because that's, you know, the open of Village Hall. If the property owners say, hey, we're best to meet at 7 o'clock, that's completely fine with me.
The
And
only thing
anyone-
with if someone truly wants to do this, if I'm setting up a meeting, I do my best to get you involve you, but usually it's whoever's available.
I would really like to go to the meeting and get inside that church if I could.
Yeah. Okay.
All of us can come.
Great. And he can explain it to me.
Okay, so
He can explain what we're seeing.
I wonder
But
if
we
it-
can only do it as far as the commission. It can only be 2 people because
True.
three is a meeting.
Correct.
All right,
She
Doris.
doesn't count.
Right, I
But I
don't
was
know.
looking at Kyle. I think Kyle would
I
love
wonder
to
if-
get in there too.
I wonder if perhaps there'd be the opportunity if we could take some videos and some and pictures, if they would be okay with that, so
Yeah,
that we could share
sure.
that with the rest of
Yeah.
the board. Understanding that we're not designating the interior, but just out of curiosity to show not only the board but the public to see what a
Yeah.
beautiful building it is, assuming that it has all those characteristics that you've researched.
Right.
So I saw your finger hovering. I
Oh,
wasn't sure
yeah,
if you
no.
were wanting to do that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm interested in touring it, of course. Just a random thought: is this next to the building Bill Perret lectured on in December?
Yes.
And
It's
did
to the
that
right
one-
of the Congregational Church.
And did that one have 2 entrances as well?
It does.
It does, but the other ones, the second one, there's more than, I haven't have the picture in front of me. I think it's set back. It's not, their entrance is center on the front section. But I think there's others that are set back, and I think there's a side entrance as well. But I'd have to look at the picture to,
There's like a door, the front doors, then one to the left, to the east, and then one to the west that's farther.
Because I vaguely
Back.
remember a question about if maybe there's different doors by gender. Which church came first? Oh, which one's older?
do you think I have that in my head, Kyle?
Well, I guess I'm wondering if,
Yes.
if, they
I'm not
have,
sure.
if they did the 2 doors to maybe match or complement the neighbor.
Well, I think we can actually answer this. I'm looking at Google Street View. So there is a photo up there that says "Celebrate 200 Years" on the neighboring church that Bill Perret did the presentation on in December. So if 200 years was in 2024, and you mentioned 1892,
1892, the cornerstone was laid.
so, and I'm not a mathematician, but I think that that would make this church older than the neighboring property,
No.
right?
No, the other way.
No,
200, so
no,
18.
Because that would have been
1924, 2024.
1824 then. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Well-
See, this is why I am a planner,
Yeah,
not
this-
an engineer.
this is their second building.
Okay, that's true, because that's mentioned in the, so the building itself is younger, but perhaps the congregation, or the congregation at that point was, because it's now
Yeah,
different.
I think that probably these groups were kind of, these groups started in meeting at in Egypt, at schoolhouses and homes, and they first, when they got here to the village, they also were meeting in a home. So, but they built right away. I hope I'm not mixing up properties here, but they built a Greek Revival house. I think that's the one that got moved. Yeah, got moved to Main Street.
The roof line's interesting too. Is there any other roof like that in the village that you know of?
No, it's so irregular.
Huh.
It's so irregular. I mean, that's why I'm having so much trouble describing it, and not being an architect, I say it goes that way. That's my. I could draw it, but I can't always describe things well in terms that more professional terms like you folks would use. So I'm always struggling with the descriptions and using correct
Honestly,
terms.
that roof would take a lot of description. Well, looking at that.
The newspaper article said it was it's shaped like a cross, which it is. If you go from the front to the back section.
I don't think so.
No.
It's a T.
Well, can you imagine?
Yeah,
Imagine trying to describe it.
Yeah, but a cross is a cruciform, and that means that you've got your crossing has two ends to it, so it actually forms a cross, and this is a T. So you got your back hip, and then you've got a front hip, but you don't have a hip behind it, unless you want to call the 1953 building creating the cruciform, but that's not the case. So, so it's a T. It's a T-shaped
It's a T
roof.
shape?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can correct that right away.
That was one of the things I was going to talk to you
Okay.
about.
Thank you. And you can see the parsonage right there, right beside it. Now that's a cross gable.
I was going to say.
It's so hard. It's so hard when I, struggling with the description. And I'm like, why don't I just look at a satellite view? Duh. It still didn't clarify it for me because it has so many angles. So anyways, I think we should just get a letter drafted and let's move on.
Sounds good.
It may take a while to get in contact with folks and.
So, do we want to, just a motion for the Historic Preservation Commission to proceed with the process and contact the property owners?
Did you want a motion?
Yes, I'd like to get a motion.
Okay.
I'll make that motion. Do I count?
Yes, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Doris.
You're welcome. This is the fun part for me,
We know that. So 115 North Main Street, Dave's going to be working on that. He doesn't have a presentation tonight. I don't know when your thoughts are about when you might want to, maybe next month. I wonder if it might be worthwhile talking to the 115 North Main Street, their neighbor. I don't know what number they were, 113. And seeing at this point, since their neighbor is interested in it, that maybe they might be interested as well.
I'm sure I still have that correspondence
Yeah.
from the first time. I can see what I can find.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't hurt, right? You already started the work on it.
I did.
So maybe, once you get going on 115 and then,
Okay, I can definitely reach out to him again. Okay,
just a thought.
no
Good,
problem.
that's a good idea. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been quite a few years.
It has been.
So, Jill, I don't know if you were with us when Dave had done his presentation. I don't know if you actually approached them or if they approached you, but the little fire hall, 113 North Main. And partway into the process, they kind of had second thoughts and didn't want to proceed, so it halted at that point. But I think it was before you
Yeah,
came to.
Yeah,
I was
think-
not involved.
Yeah, I feel like they approached us. That's why I started
Thought
doing
so.
it, and then they decided they did not want
Either
it.
that or someone casually had a conversation and said, oh, I might be, I don't know. It seemed I was surprised that they, because we either heard about it from someone that they were interested or they
Yeah.
approached the village,
Well, I'll explore it again.
Yeah, great.
So, next on the agenda, we're back to talking about the National Register discussion for the Historic District, and I believe that we've come up with what we feel are good boundaries based on all of our discussions and the visit with SHPO, and when was it? Couple, 3 or so weeks ago, Doris and I met again with Jill, and then we also reviewed it too with Dave. And Jill had updated our little colorful map of that area so that we could see all of the homes that were.
Yeah. Do we have that to share? Can we share it?
I put them on Jump Drive, so at least I think I did.
Just for everyone watching from home, so
Yep.
they can see what district we're referring to.
Yep. And you can put on the map, yep, that one. So this map shows, in green, the existing district. And then I have also, in yellow, what would be our proposed. And I think I captured all of the conversation. I made a series of maps, so I can distribute these to everyone with addresses, with additional information, so that we have this, that you can start really digging into it. And then as people want certain sections of the draft area, I can create those maps as well.
So I'm just going to kind of remind people, because we were saying when we got together, this is extended over such a long period of time discussing it that we're sometimes forgetting what we had talked about before and why. So the 3 items that I'm just wanted to remind all of us about is it was after we met with Sarah Evanson and Chelsea Towers from SHPO. They had suggested that we move the historic time frame to 1930. Once you do that, you can see how it expanded on the north side of West Church Street out to the west. And they had said to extend the current district boundaries to the west up and including Nelson Street. We did the east and the west side of Nelson the last time we met, all the way up to, can't remember what number it was, number 30, and then it becomes ranches as you go further down Nelson. And then we also had extended all the way on West Church Street all the way to the canal. I'm not sure if we had talked about that before the last time we got together. And then modifying the theme of the proposed district to reflect the growth of the historic neighborhoods over time. And that, again, once you're going out to 1930, you're going to have a lot more contributing structures, even within that original area that we had talked about.
Yeah.
So these are a lot based on the recommendations of the state. And they made sense to us. And the other thing that we had talked about that I think we had to keep reminding ourselves, is when you're looking at West Avenue, and it's Roselawn right behind there, right? Why aren't we including the south side of Roselawn? And it was because there were so many non-contributing structures. We had to go and actually walk it, and well, we walked it online. Yes. To remind ourselves, oh my gosh, well then why aren't we including that? And that's why there's just been so much modern improvements to the structures.
For those people that might be tuning in, or because this is obviously being recorded and will be posted, I just want to emphasize that this is a National Register district and not a locally designated district. So when we have the discussion about National Register, that opens up a world of potential tax incentives for people to make changes to their house if they desire, but there's no regulatory action from the village that takes place by designating homes as part of a district. So I just want to get that out there.
Thank you, Jill. Very good point.
Could I add that this is a draft? It is not set in concrete. There's steps we have to take, like the research and the documentation of these buildings. The village itself needs to give us our blessing, and then we need to apply to the state, and they will have basically the final decision as to how big and what we include into this district. We have obviously met with them to get their advice, and we feel we're pretty comfortable with what we have here. Another suggestion, could you, Jill, put this sort of thing on that map in nice faint? See draft?
You know what? I can't see. Did I put draft anywhere on there?
You have draft across it.
Oops, did I?
I don't know that I can.
In that thing.
But I
Okay.
think it says proposed.
Okay.
But I can add draft on here somehow. Yep, I can do that.
I think because we are so we have work to do. We have time. We have to go through approvals, and if there's any concern when something changes, we have to be clear that this is a proposal. It's a draft version. It's not final.
Maybe you could just do it in the key. Just put it, because
Yeah, you know
We
what
don't
I'll
need-
do? I'll add it to, if you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a date, I'll add it there.
Good.
So that way it's clear that it's a draft.
I'm going to bring this over to you, Doris, too. So, before we moved any further with this, I think what we were hoping to do is making sure that everyone's still on board with this. With a few of these tweaks, are there any concerns on the behalf of the commission for these draft boundaries?
No.
Any questions that arose from making these changes? And the only other thing that I would say is the other recommendation that they had, because it was a question I think that a number of us had, was not to include any of the commercial districts. So the old telephone building, you can see it ends right before that. Because if there were to be another district over time, that would more comfortably fit into different boundaries on Main Street.
Can we come up with a name of our historic district?
The historic district name, an option was given to us by SHPO, and it was like the West, gosh, I don't have it in front of me. It was like the West neighborhood. I'll find it, Doris, but I don't want to put it out there and not have it be
Okay.
the correct one.
Okay. Well, the other thing that we want to be clear as we're going through this process is this is a phase one. We're hoping to do more. And so if we call it a residential historic district, or somehow could describe the area in that title, that would be good. But I haven't come up with one myself.
I think it was just the West neighborhood. That doesn't sound quite right, historic district, but I'll find that.
that's
And,
not-
and it wasn't a final name by any means. I mean, I think that's something that definitely can happen over time, but I think it was something that maybe Virginia Bartos had suggested when she had reviewed our first go-round of that, yeah.
You know, sometimes you write a book and you don't know the title of it until you're done with the book, and that could be the situation here for this district after everyone does their research and we spend some more time on it, so.
So I just did this really quick draft. I was thinking about at some point, and we'll have to talk about the timing of this. You know, one of the important things to do is to have the outreach. And, you know, Julie, the mayor, had brought this up at our last meeting, I think in December. And one of the things is gaining support of the local leaders and property owners. And so we had talked about presenting this to the village board and just giving them an idea of what we've done to this point, like what's the process for the nominating sponsors. And we have that one PDF that I think all of us have looked at a lot, this one right here from the state. But it's a very good description of it, but I was thinking if we were just kind of trying to take out the major points, if we were going to present it to the village board. So I just started basically a first draft about the process, and it's, you know, exactly what you were talking about, Doris, all the different steps that have to happen along the way, and, you know, identification of the historic district. I've got little checks. I mean, right now, we've done the work for this first draft, because there's a lot of steps along the way and people have to agree. But, you know, we've identified what we think are good boundaries. We've discussed it with the SHPO representative. They've actually visited. We've discussed goals, research, resource, the size. So, you know, we've kind of moved along in that. Project schedule is a big one that we have to undertake. The HIPPO staff, that was supposed to be SHPO staff, but, so they scheduled a visit. So I think, you know, we really have done quite a bit of work. It's extended over a period of time, but, so tonight, if all of us internally were concurring about the district and its boundaries, we can kind of feel like we can take that next step forward. And the preparation of the nomination that I listed here, and it's interesting, they say most district nominations are prepared by professional consultants, so we didn't do that our first time around, and I think you all did a great job, but maybe we'll get another grant proposal out next year and see if we can get some help, but I think we've also made some plans ourselves to start doing the homework.
Yeah, I did reach out to the state to see if they know when that period will open for the grant applications, and they are waiting to hear news from the federal government as to what the status is. Okay. So I've asked our contact at SHPO to keep me in the loop so that we can make a decision sooner rather than later if we'll apply for a grant.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's right. And so what's going to happen after tonight, since we are kind of all on board with these boundaries, is Jill's going to reach out to our friends Chelsea and Sarah again and just tell her where we landed and make sure that they're happy with that. So the preparation of the nomination, I'm not even going to go through that at all because we're all really familiar with that, but that would be something that would be important for, you know, our board to know. And then one of the most important elements is going to be outreach. And I was looking to see if I could find what we had done last time. But here's, you know, all of these different items that are listed here. I won't read them all. But these are all items that we're very familiar with, that we've done over and over again with our different events and projects. And so I think that we're pretty good at getting information out there, doing meetings, using media, mailings, letter from local officials, if that would help. If Jill would be willing to add it to our website, and having events, maybe a walking tour, things like that. So,
And keep in mind too that SHPO, I think, once we start down this path, SHPO assists quite a good deal with the public outreach. So it behooves both of us to be out there.
right. So that was just, it was just showing you, I was kind of just doing some homework, trying to think through what we would want to share as this first step with our village board. And I know they're very concerned about outreach. So,
Okay. So question. Well, first comment. This is fantastic, very helpful. Thank you. I don't know if there is a prescribed order to how this goes, but in listening to all of this and sort of making sure that the public understands sort of what this could potentially mean, is there a reason, and also because this is going to be a lot of work, is there a reason why we can't go to the village board sooner than later to start talking about what it is and allow a lot of residents to have a much better understanding of what this actually means?
Yep, absolutely. We can, I'm sure that we can get on any sort of agenda and, possibly a work session or whatever that might look like to ensure that the public understands what this could be, what it isn't, and then get a little bit deeper and provide regular updates to the village board on the progress. So I think that first step is for me to reach out to SHPO and say, hey, does this map work for you? Once they say, yep, this is something we can work with, then I think that sort of is the ignition for us to then proceed with everything else. Because we certainly don't want to take something to the village board that the state is like, this isn't even going to work. So that, I think, is the first step, and I will do that. I'm not in the office tomorrow, so I will do that on Monday so that we can start those conversations with them. It does take a little bit of time for them to respond, I'm finding, so we may not have an answer until the end of next week or the following week. And then we can sort of plot out what the appearance before the village board might look like.
And I would be happy to be part of that appearance in front of the village board. I don't know if it's the whole commission that does that, or...
Well,
if
I
it's
think
just
for when we're
a
doing a
few of us.
presentation to village board, I think it should be myself and perhaps Kara with the Historic Preservation Commission members in support present at the meeting. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to be recognized by the audience and, of course, the village board. And then, Kara and I will be available for any questions or comments that the village board has. And then, of course, you get to hear them live in person. So I will start working on that, obviously, ASAP. And we'll get before the village board to sort of give them an update of what we're thinking and get their feedback.
because it would be great to have their feedback before we get too far into the work of this. I'm hoping that this would be something that is of such great benefit to the community, to the village of Fairport, that hopefully folks will be really excited about it. But until it's presented, we just don't know. And to your point, Dave, too, yours was about the village board, but it's only required that there are public meetings starting, I think it's like 60 days before it goes to a vote by SHPO. However, one of the things they had in this information was once you have the boundaries, and I'm assuming once you have the village behind you, go out then and start reaching out to the community and let them know what's happening. So that is the type, I think, of commission that we are, and community, and getting out there ahead of time and just letting people know what's happening. So I'm sure that we kind of all agree with that would be the best way to move forward, is to engage people early.
Yeah, and what we'll want to do is explore the timing, obviously, with the zoning code update, because I don't want to have any confusion with what's going on here, because obviously Historic Preservation Commission has the ability to designate local landmarks, but also a district. And I want to be sure that the public understands that this is not the commission designating a district, that this is National Register without any regulations tied with it.
And that's what I was thinking, you know, with getting this started, and everyone, we can feel free to just, this is just a start. It was just this morning I started writing this out, but once we get the basic areas out and, you know, we have the support of the village board, hopefully, then we can start putting in dates and all of that. Start planning a little bit more. What are you thinking, Chuck? You look like you're deep in thought.
So one of my thoughts was, is we should also have the Potter District file in front of us so we could all see what this looks like, what this document looks like. This will be a much bigger document, but you know, it shows all the research that has to go into the district. So I don't know if that's a file that's.
I think it's
I
already
think, I think I
open.
shared that a
Yeah.
while ago, but I'll make sure that
Yeah.
it's in our OneDrive,
Okay.
so that everybody has access to it. I think it may be, but I'll double check that.
I think it is because I was using it today to get some of the elements of the nomination.
Okay, good.
And I was looking at it too because I think your hand raised up when about doing the history. And I'm going through and I'm like, oh, this is just a small amount for the history. And then, well, it's after the list of all the structures. And it was really long, Chuck. Really long, the history.
You know, it's a little bit of work, yeah. But, and the other thing I was thinking of is the new structures behind the school. Why were those included in the townhouses? I mean, or is it like you don't want to eliminate
I think
something
we
right
didn't
in
want
the
a
middle?
donut hole.
Correct,
You
it's
don't,
all
you
about,
don't want donut holes?
we don't want donut holes. So obviously, there could be some
We
properties.
want donuts, but not donut holes.
That's right.
Correct.
It's
Donuts-
basically non-contributing.
Correct.
That's
So-
how we'll list it and say, pff, non-contributing. I mean,
I
And it
guess
was
I
ship-
guess
it
I
was
could
SHPO.
I guess I could justify it by saying it's part of the history of the high school, and that's how it was developed. You know, so maybe non-contributing, but still part of the story. So yeah.
They did, Sarah and Chelsea did say that the state doesn't like to see any little funny shapes. Yeah. Looks neat and
What-
clean now.
when we talked about expanding this from our original discussion and changing the date that we were going, oh, well. Just a conversation. I wanted to say that our original dates that we were going to work with were something like 1905 or something. It was the oldest, and we realized as we were walking around that we weren't going to be including the West High School because it was 1924. So again, that was, for me, that was one of the big things, despite the fact that it's a lot more work to expand the area.
It was great having outside eyes on the space and the area. So to Jill's point too, we are using what's our storage?
OneDrive.
OneDrive. We are using OneDrive, and we'll have to work with you, Doris, because it actually has been super functional for me, so maybe we can figure out, or maybe we can get IT to help you so that you can access it. There might be something about
It's probably in
the
my
age of your
browsers.
computer.
Yeah. It's probably in my browsers.
But we do have, so the other thing, the next thing that Jill has is the Excel worksheet that we're all hopefully.
Ryan has it. It's on there, but I'm not controlling the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. That's okay. If you could bring up the Excel file.
We talked about this already, but we played around with it, and I think it's going to be helpful, especially with the number of structures that we have. So, thank you. Can everyone,
I know what it looks like.
I can kind of see it, but I know what it says. So what I did is I took the 2014 survey, removed all of the structure, or just left all of the structures that are within the boundaries of the proposed historic district. So that's like the number, the street, the estimated date, the rating, the 2014 rating, and then the 2014 potential district that shows you when in this map right here from the 2014 survey. This is what they had suggested could be one of the districts. The West Ave West Church District is what they called it. So many of these houses are part of that. Most of them are, but there are some that we have decided to include within the boundaries that were not listed as being part of the potential district. And I think I highlighted if in that space, if it was not identified in the 2014 survey as being part of the potential district. But so then, will it take very long? Okay, thanks. Okay. So we have the reviewer on the left side, so you can just go in there, and if you want to you go and you say, well, I think I'd like to do half of 4th Avenue, you could just put your name there. Doris has offered to provide us with any information that she has, because she's done the research on so many of these, which I recognize is a lot of work in and of itself too, Doris. Oh,
It
thank you.
depends. It's a lot of work just because, and I'm organized. It's a lot of work
Okay.
because I.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Let's see. So,
Were you saying that this is on the shared drive? Or OneDrive?
Whoops.
And that's where you want us to
did I just do that, or did
put
you?
in our information?
This doesn't seem to. I did have it, but. Oh. Yeah. All right, here, let me see if I can do it on something softer. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, it's still not super happy, but there's Kyle. There's Doris. Yeah, that's a good thought. I didn't even think to check how many houses there were.
250, I think.
Did you?
Yeah,
I probably.
if you started at 1, you'll have the right number.
It's close.
4. So what's the yellow?
The yellow is,
Kara, is your microphone on?
yes. Am I
Okay.
yelling?
I feel like I can't hear you.
Yes. It does not sound as loud as sometimes when other people are talking. It sounds more like a microphone. What is the yellow? I can't remember why I did that.
I don't either.
There was a reason.
But there's a difference between what was on the 2014 and what was on, and what we're including or something?
Well, no, because see, on the 2014 potential district, you see it says West Church, West Ave. So it was something else that I was doing at the time. I'll fix that.
Are they all Rose Lawn? Could be tied to when you're discussing extending the boundary.
127, 128. I don't know. Doesn't want to, sorry, stop scrolling. There we go. It's not here. Let me. There we go. Yep. So, yeah. There, so here you can see, I don't know why all of it's yellow, but Perrin Street, that was not something that in 2014 they had suggested would be part of the district. But we did walk through with them this last time, and they didn't have an issue with that. So this is something, it's on the OneDrive. You can get into it. Anyone can edit it. Oh, I know the other thing. So what we did is the 2014 notes are the notes that were part of the survey. So there's interesting things in there. There might be some information that would be applicable for the district notes that SHPO is requiring for each structure, or it might be something, a lot of it seems to be the 2025 historical reference that Doris was thinking too for Chuck and for anyone who's helping with the narrative to highlight some. We don't want to lose that information about the history of the building, even though it might not be required for the structural notes for the application. The application, if you can see in red, the items that need to be included, it would be some of the information already, the address, the date, but the structure, the foundation, the siding, the windows, the porch, the doors, outbuildings. So so we're going to format it so that we all basically are including the same information. So we can write our notes into there, and then when this is all said and done, the theory is that we kind of edit this spreadsheet, and it can be, we take out the information they don't need. What remains can just be inserted as part of our application.
And is there, and there's usually a photo of each building.
We can do.
No, the building, in the Potter one, photos. No, I mean, I put them in when I was doing the writing of it because I needed to keep it straight.
Oh, but the final report didn't have the photos.
That was the 2014 survey you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it had photos.
That's true, because I did just look at the our last
I
application.
was
It didn't.
thinking of our worksheets.
Yeah.
That's where we had photos.
But we could, if we wanted to, you can insert in the cell a photo if it's helpful to you. We could, if you wanted to, I could, or someone else could just,
It starts to make the file unmanageable.
yeah. Any comments, thoughts? So we're kind of organized and ready to go. Yes, it's on Jill.
Reach out now.
Oh, to get it. He said, now it's all on Jill. You have to reach out to SHPO and just get an approval, that's all. So, well, that's that then, that I would, if anyone else wanted to talk about the proposed district, but I just wanted to share that. And So updates, I don't know if anyone has any comments, anything related to any of our other areas of responsibilities they wanted to talk about today. This is a lot as it is.
Like any one of these things, or are we going in order?
Any one of those things.
Okay. Well, then, I am currently putting materials together. I found some really good examples of what's being done in different communities in terms of a House of the Month or some sort of recognition program. I don't want to speak too much to it right now because I'm not exactly sure what the form is going to ultimately take. But in a recent meeting with Kara and Jill, we talked a little bit about how we might be able to do something that recognizes different properties around the village for what they've been working on or doing to those properties in some fashion. But in one of our soon upcoming meetings, I'll have some examples of kind of what I'm thinking.
I guess since you're bringing that up too, we had also talked about the scavenger hunt. Does anyone have an interest in doing that again this year? I really liked it. My biggest concern, because we have really format kind of in place, one of my concerns is that we don't, take the wind out of the tree board's sails if this is something that they want to do again this year. They didn't want to do it last year, but
Do we know anything about what they're thinking?
no.
Okay.
I asked their board staff who did not think that they would want to partner on a scavenger hunt. So I think at this point, if the commission wishes to do that, we should probably explore doing that on our own. But it seems that we have a lot of things that are happening right now, and we may want to perhaps do this next year or the following year, and maybe it would be, let's assume that this National Register District ends up coming to fruition. It might be an opportunity to showcase different homes within that district and then bring some excitement to that district about what has occurred. So that could maybe tie together in the future. It could be the last step on this entire process.
I did think about that. The only downside to that is we had talked about, and maybe we can do that with like what, Dave's suggestion is not focus. It's the same area that we did the scavenger hunt in last time. So, but yeah, I recognize too that being the person who supports us, you have a lot on your plate as well. So, yeah, just wanted to bring that up because if we wanted to do it, now's the time.
I'm fine with.
Okay. Anyone else? So, nothing?
I do
Anyone
not.
want to make a motion to adjourn?
You're good?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.